believe it or not, I feel the same way that the Minnesota Vikings feel about Harbaugh. I thought he was a planner. I thought he was somebody. I guess he must have had offensive coordinators over at the 49ers, and he sort of probably restricted Gaddis. I'm happy as a Michigan State fan to have him over in Ann Arbor. He doesn't have a balanced offense, which means that if he ever gets behind, he's going to have to rely on a passer to win the game who hasn't been passing the ball all season. Whereas you have Michigan State, and I think number one Michigan State fan brought it up, we're getting quarterback talent that probably should have went to Ann Arbor if they had a balanced system. We're getting stronger by becoming more balanced, even though they clearly have better recruiting. What's good recruiting if you're not schematically up to date?
Absolutely. You need both. You need the players first and foremost, but you also need to put them in a position to win.
It's really shocking. I would have, I was sort of blinded by the light, and I was like, wow, Michigan seems like a really powerful school. It was true that Michigan State beat them last year, but I was like, wow, I think they're really going to tear. They're going to tear into Georgia. Georgia was like a bunch of people 2 years older, like in middle school, picking on the Michigan front line there. It was bad, and they couldn't play from behind. And it's almost a shame. I think they're changing quarterbacks, and it's not a sure thing that if you're going to replace their current quarterback, I forget his name, that the next one coming in is going to be any bit better. And he doesn't seem to have the talents. The current one doesn't have the talents as the other quarterbacks at similar schools, unfortunately. Maybe because he doesn't have the reps.
Yeah, I think Cade McNamara is a good quarterback. He's not an exceptional quarterback. He's not the guy that's going to carry a team. He's not. I don't see him succeeding.
A Chad Pennington allegory.
Hey, I had to call in because I was getting a laugh out of that Michigan State fan who well, first of all, he didn't even know who Michigan's quarterback was. So, and then he said that he was glad that Harbaugh stayed. Listen, you know this, and I know this from the Michigan-Ohio State thing. In a real rivalry, you root for them to lose in volleyball. And when a coach is winning, like Harbaugh was winning last year, you don't want him to stay. You want him to go because maybe they'll end up with somebody, another rich rod hire or something like that. So that's kind of like swatting away a fly there from little brother. But if you look at Ohio State is the cream of the crop in the Big Ten. I mean, everybody's talking about how Michigan had a great year. For Michigan to win the Big Ten and beat Ohio State, that's a great year. But for Ohio State, it's not. So Michigan's got a lot of work to do. Like I would say, you're probably right about as a Michigan fan, I would tell you 75% of the time Ohio State win is probably true, unless we see something different, But anyway, one simple solution to that would be to move Michigan or Ohio State to the West. And I'll tell you right now, Woody Hayes would love that in today's world. Woody Hayes would say, why would I just want to beat them once if I can beat them twice? And I think if Michigan or Ohio State lost to each other in that last game and they went to Indy to play on a neutral field, I think whoever lost that game would be jacked up. I'm glad we didn't have to play Ohio State the next week in Indy, this past year.
Yeah.
Because I think that would have been I don't know which way it would have gone, but I know Ohio State would have been jacked up, and it would have been can you imagine bringing all that history and all that tradition to a neutral field on a big stage like that? I mean, that would be, I think, pretty awesome.
Okay.
You know?
So you like it. Yeah. So I tend to think like you do that when the teams are evenly matched, as they appeared to be last year, even though Michigan controlled the game and were clearly the better team on that day. And let's take 2016. We know what happened that year. If they were going to play another game the next weekend, then shoot, Michigan would have been out for blood, of course, after what happened with that measurement in Columbus. But there would be other times in which, let's say 2018. So Ohio State and Michigan were the two best teams in the conference. Michigan was actually the better team based on score comparisons and comparing how they played leading up to that last game. And then you know what happened in the 2018 game in Columbus. It would have been interesting to see those years that Ohio State, 2018, 2019, if they would have played Michigan in a championship game after just hammering them the week before, if things would have been different.
And I think that they should, if they, you know, they're done, they're not going to do it. But if they did do it, the team to move to the West is Michigan, and the team to leave in the East is Ohio State, because I have family that lives in like Youngstown, Ohio, and half of them are for Penn State and half of them are for Ohio State. I mean, I've kind of wondered why that happened. Maybe because Penn State isn't winning enough, but that is a built-in rival for Ohio State.
Sure it is. I consider them rivals. It doesn't come anywhere close to the game, but Ohio State and Penn State are rivals in my book. And so are Michigan and Penn State.
I think they should be I think that they should be as big a rivals as Michigan and Michigan State.
Yeah, I can see that to a certain extent, but of course, we now have 30 years built up of Penn State in the Big Ten.
Isn't that amazing? I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
They've done it. Yeah. I wonder what the overall record is over the 30 years with Penn State, Ohio State.
I'll count it out during one of these phone calls. It's Ohio State's got a decent edge, but it's not embarrassing.
Now the SEC, they kind of proved that they got the seeding correct. And I'm not a fan of the group of five thing. I think the group of five thing this year was, I don't want to call it a fluke, but it only happened because the group of five team happened to beat the team that was in the number 5 slot.
Sure. Yeah.
I think if that was any other team other than Notre Dame in the number 5 spot, they should have got the 4 seed. I just don't think that I just don't feel it's the same, it's not, I don't think it's the same level of competition. I guess everybody wanted to see it though. And this was the year that it was, I guess, the right thing to do. Who finished number 6? I don't even remember. Oh, it was Oklahoma State, right?
Wasn't Ohio State
and then
number
they ended
6?
Up losing.
Are you talking about?
Oh, were they?
Yeah, when Cincinnati 4, Notre Dame 5, Ohio State 6.
Now, wouldn't have that been something, huh? If that was another group of 5 team and not Cincinnati, That still wouldn't work for Ohio State to get in. But wouldn't that have been something if because I think Ohio State would make some noise even after the Michigan game. I mean, Ohio State only lost that game because they couldn't stop the run. I mean, they couldn't stop Haskins.
Well, that would not have bode well against Georgia or Alabama.
Yeah, and look at Georgia, man. They deserve a lot of credit. You know, they've been climbing that hill that Michigan tried to climb with Ohio State, and they actually got there. You know, I mean, I remember when they fired Mark Richt, and I thought he was a good coach. I mean, he was like 10-2 a lot of years, you know. But hey, they deserve a lot of credit. Georgia does, you know. They certainly dominated Michigan. I mean, it wasn't even a game, not even any sense, you know. But anyway, I still stick with what I said. There's too much time off between the championship games and the you know, the college playoffs. There's too much time, and they could easily get 8 teams together, use the Rose, Big Ten, give up the Rose Bowl thing, and use the Rose, Sugar, Orange, whatever, Fiesta, and play off those 8 teams. And Ohio State would have been in this year. And I think that would have been real interesting. I mean, they lost 1 game, for crying out loud.
2.
You know? Didn't Ohio State finish
2 games.
13-1?
They lost to Oregon and Michigan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they dropped that Oregon game. Yeah, at the beginning of the season. That's right. But they still finished the same record. But anyway, I think if you had 8 teams in there and one played 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5, I think you'd have about 15 teams in there, you know, towards the end of the season that had real good, legitimate chances of getting in there. I think I read somewhere, too, that Ward Manuel is actually on that committee now.
Oh, is he? I will have to check up on that.
Yeah, check into that. You're because listen, if I'm ever telling you something that you don't know, then I'm way out ahead of things. You know what I mean? Because I learn a lot of stuff. Well, I learn a lot from you, and I learn a lot from your callers, and I learn a lot from, you know, people who in the chat who, you know, put some good stuff in there. So
I have not kept up with the committee like I should. Well, I appreciate you calling.
Absolutely.
And by the way, while we were talking there, after you had to mention, I cannot let a comment like Penn State, Ohio State, what's the record, slide by where my mind's not going to start adding up series records. So anyway, Penn State's beaten Ohio State 8 times since they joined the Big Ten.
It's 22-8.
Well, let's see, 93 through 21 isn't quite, what is that, 28 games? It might be 20-8. So there you go.
Okay.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
I didn't think Penn State had that many, but thanks for letting me know.
Absolutely.